You all mentioned that you filmed the first, I think, 4 seasons, right, in Baltimore? And I remember being in DC, you guys were down there a lot, going to things, talking to people, going to the correspondence dinners, but doing some real research on how Washington worked. You had consultants on the show that were former journalists, former top folks in the White House. How important was that process as you all sort of came into your characters?
Can I digress for 1 second?
Yeah, Tim, this is our legacy.
Yeah.
This is our legacy.
This is your improv moment.
We could die tomorrow.
Okay, we at the time, we all lived in Los Angeles. I have never been to a bigger rat fuck than the Correspondence Dinner. That was...
It's a circus.
It is a fucking circus that would make Los Angeles blush. Like, there was a Simpsons episode where there was like a movie crew that shot in Springfield, and Springfield got so poisoned by the movie being there that all the people on the movie were like, we can't wait to get back to LA. And that was kind of how I felt. It was very fun. But it was an absolute rat fuck. And I'm sorry, that's now going to be my legacy. But
well, to that end, I just remember people treated you like a prop. They would just grab you and take a selfie. They wouldn't ask you.
It wasn't like, oh, hey, how's it going? I love the show. Could we get one? I mean, I saw somebody grab Julia by the arm and turn, she was in a conversation, and turn her around to be like, I understand you're talking to someone else, but you should be talking to me.
Very Washington.
Well, what was fascinating, we had mentioned this in the time before, but I think it was at that time you heard a lot of like, oh, I'm the Dan in Veep. And we were like, why are you saying this out loud?
Yeah.
This is not something to be proud of.
What's happening right now?
Yeah.
You know?
But to your actual question, which I have forgotten.
How important was the research and meeting people and the consultants that you had brought onto the show?
I think the consultants were incredible. I mean, like, they organized trips for us up to town to, you know, go to the House floor, talk to senators, talk to aides, but then on top of that, we would go up to DC on off nights and go out and get drinks with staffers, just trying to get to know the moment to moment and the day to day of the world. And a lot of that stuff we would try to pull from them. Like, at the time, I think this was a bigger deal, but things like in the first season, you can kind of always see us carrying 2 phones, and that was from that idea of you can't fundraise on a government issue phone, so we were always carrying around 2 phones.
Plus, it helps you look important if you have 2 phones.
And you also look important.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then also, I think at some point we were like, as actors, it's really hard to carry 2 phones, so we just kind of let that one go. But pencil fucked was a big one.
Pencil fuck came from one of those interviews because those are the people who speak freely. Like, the candidate's going to give you a polished version of reality, but the people who work for them after like 3 beers or whatever, then they start to open up and they tell you, and we were learning everything. Like, I didn't know much about politics. I still don't, but I knew zero. And so it was just fascinating to hear all of it, like just how it works. And
the writers were really open to implementing those.
Like, pencil fucked came, we were out to drinks in DC.
Just so you know, in the show, if you haven't seen it, she's doing a speech.
Thank you.
And somebody scratched
the character Jonah Ryan.
Yeah, not the best character in there. But she said, though, I think this is...
She says it, but I pencil fuck.
Oh, that's right. Jonah
I go through and I'm like, you can't say
this. Because you're the White House person saying you gotta take
this
this
has
out.
been pencil fucked.
And I got to say someone effed a monkey. Remember that?
Yeah, that was
very true. It's very true.
But like that, we had taken people out to drinks.
Very political satire. Very scathing.
We had taken people out to drinks the night before and had heard that term, and you know, it was a very collaborative environment. We got to bring that in the next day for that scene, and we were like, this is something we heard last night, and they were like, great, let's use it.
But you guys also, I mean, I remember when I was at Meet the Press, you guys came and filmed an episode on our set. So you wanted to sort of embrace the reality of Washington.
Without introducing people from the real world. Like, they're very much not going to do that. But yeah, they wanted all the locations, the steakhouses, whatever they could replicate.
Right.
They were very specific about that. And there were consultants like Frank Rich and many, many people from DC who were part of the idea process for all of it. Yeah.
And they were smart too because they have like the steakhouse, like that's where you were going to have like the meeting with the donors or the powerful people, right?
Off campus, no one can see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But,
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
The authenticity of this.
Wait, digressions aren't allowed.
Oh, that's true.
Full digressions.
As
It's fine.
5 years old. The set direction, they always say in Hollywood, in DC, that the buildings are stunning, but inside the furniture was just crap.
Yeah.
And it's all just like
Government issues,
Yeah, it's government
sorta.
issue crap. But these beautiful buildings, and I love that Veep really found that kind of.
Yeah,
Except
just-
Selena's office, which was the most beautiful.
Like messy desks because nobody ever has the time to like properly move in. It's just, we just piled stuff here on the first day and it stayed for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that the idea, like Arm brought up this great point that he had heard on a tour one time that they had bought the desks and the chairs on a different day. And so the chairs didn't fit under the desks. And like that was the thing that really got Arm going about like that dichotomy of like the stature of American government versus the reality of America.
Right.
Yeah.
But one other kind of persistent theme throughout Veep is this kind of the proximity to power and how important that is. And you all got to that as well. You know, like I remember the scenes of like when you're in the West Wing and like who's going to get what office and like somebody's in a closet, but that's okay. It's closest to the Oval. Like so Washington, right?
So high school.
Yes, that's so Washington.
It's the thing of like, how close can I get to the popular people? Then I'm in the glow of their popularity.
Yeah, and the networking of it all too was something that I think we opened our eyes to. Like early parties we were brought to or functions for the military or State Department or whatever, people were always giving you a card. You were walking home with cards, or they were like kind of half looking at you to see who else was in the room. These are the sort of early things we're noticing about the real game of politics.
There's a terrible saying that Washington is Hollywood for ugly people, which I'm sure you guys have heard. But
You are all very beautiful.
did you all?
Veep is DC for beautiful people.
There you go. But did you all, is there a similarity? Because Washington is very much a company town around politics, and you all, from the Hollywood, world, is there a similarity there with power and networking and what goes on?
Yes.
In a more attractive way?
Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
Digressions welcome.
Yeah.
There's a singular focus in LA. Like it is very much about entertainment and jobs and who do you work for and what's going on and did you hear so-and-so got this and you should talk to this person. So there's a constant business of networking and sussing people out for their transactional value, perhaps.
Right.
So that exists in LA very much, and that is very similar to DC.
And there is a thing, I think there are like, and I don't want to like denigrate Los Angeles too much because I do love it there. And there are just like in DC, there are dark versions of that, and there are just like the wonderful collaborative versions of it. Like things happen in DC that are good, and you also hear stories about people in Los Angeles who like put their kids into a particular private school not because it's good for their kid, but because they know another producer's kid goes there, and that's where you're like, oh, that person should be launched into the sun.
Right.
But I do, to your question before, I do remember talking to somebody because I was really focused on staffers and what they do, and I remember talking to one of the consultants. He was like, you're going to meet a lot of people, and I want you to look, and this was back when like Facebook was sort of like the main social media network that was around. I was like, just look them up on Facebook as soon as you're done, and then get back to me. And I did. Every single one of them, their profile picture was of President Obama with them in the background somewhere.
Of course.
Every single one.
Course.
And even it was just like, I need you to know that at one point I was 6 feet from the president. And it doesn't matter, I need you to know that.
That's that proximity.
That's the proximity
to power, right? That goes on, and it sort of permeates through all of it.